know, welcome to Monday night. This is virtual training night. This is your opportunity. This is your opportunity to be part of a show from the get-go and only have like 2 hours. So like if you get a hotel room tonight, you cannot blame us because you got a hotel room for our training. I'm just saying. I am just saying. But I will say, if you haven't quite noticed yet, if you're going to do any training right, you've got to start off the beginning of the training with a gentleman that is joining us in our picture, Mr. Scott Faver.
Now he's a little
party
bit.
Time.
He's about 12 hours late than what he typically would be. Usually he would be doing the 8 a.m. slot. So what we did is we didn't tell him which 8 it was. We just said 8 o'clock. That's your time. We got you on.
But it's past my bedtime, honey.
No. I heard you specifically say last week you get less sleep than I think anybody is legally allowed to. So.
Sleep is way overrated, Dan. So we're on the same page. Absolutely. I've actually come today to praise the profitability of play. And I don't mean press play. I mean play. I'm thinking back to that very first automobile. It was a Ford, right? It was transportation. That was the only purpose. It had a steering wheel, it had 4 tires, and an engine. And it got you from point A to point B. It was transportation. Fast forward to 2022. Oh, almost. I'm rushing it. 21. This Lincoln commercial shows this woman in this luxurious Lincoln. It is pouring rain outside. You hear the rain coming down. It's a torrential rain. And she's inside, and it's as quiet as can be. It's her sanctuary. She has got her spa music playing, and she is just totally relaxed. She's not going anywhere. She's not transporting. She's there. It's not transportation. Now, DJs, don't be offended. It's the same idea. If you're protesting that, well, I'm the DJ, I'm not the MC, I'm not the maitre d' or the coordinator, you're leaving money on the table and you're leaving value behind. Soon enough, I know this is not going to be popular, but soon enough, venues with their own music, their own sound system, and their portable Mr. Mike are going to replace every DJ that is music only. I know that's not a popular opinion, but I'm here to tell you that is the future if you do not add talent, entertainment, and something other than music to who you are and what you do. That's my mantra, if you will. So keep in mind that not all events need a game. It's not a requisite. Even if they ask you for a game, it doesn't mean that you have to play a game. What they're really saying is, I need something, and I'm looking to you as the DJ to solve that problem. For example, if they say that they want a game, first you need to ascertain what is their motivation. Do they want to fill the dance floor? Well, then we can play a game that gets people on the dance floor. Maybe they want to play a game because they've got all these prizes. It's a corporate event. We got to give away all this stuff. I was going to say another word, but I got to filter me there. Okay. Or maybe if you're really lucky, they want you to play a game to entertain. I did this wedding for this couple, and they loved me so much that they referred me to the company that they own. And I did their company holiday party for 5 years in a row. I did it for another 5 years, but wait, got to get into the middle here. Every year that we do the planning session, I ask them, can we play a game? No, that's for kids. I don't want to play a game. All right. On the 5th year, she comes over and says, the caterer is running 5 minutes behind. Can you do something that will fill the 5 minutes so it doesn't look like everything's dragging? And I smile and say, well, of course. I just happen to have this idea right here. And I pull it out, and it's a game. Oh, my God. These are construction workers. They are highly competitive. These are sports people, with the big muscles and the dirt and the hats and the whole thing. And they are just going to kill each other over this game. And by the way, there was no prize. It's not like we were giving Hawaii away, but they were just frantic. Well, it was so successful. She comes over and says, you got to do some more of that stuff. And so every year for the next 5 years, we always had a game or two in the mix. So a lot of times it's just about an educational process that people don't understand, that it's not bar bat mitzvahs, we're going to play a game, and it's Joni's birthday, and we want to do something with balloons. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with those things, but it's not necessarily what we're talking about. We're looking for your DJ service to be driven by a solution, that you provide something that's greater than what they can get from their iPhone. Something greater than they can get from a Spotify list, okay? Because that's what they're talking about. I'm like shocked. There's this thread on DJ Idea Sharing, who I love, by the way. Great resource. Everybody shares information. But man, the guy says his friend wants him to make a playlist. It's like, well, okay, make a playlist. And then everybody else is saying, well, just do a Spotify list. Folks, hello, that's not legal, right? But all of that aside, why would you not refer a fellow DJ? If you're not available and they need a DJ, John, are you available on this date? Would you do this party for him?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you. That's all
I'm
I'm
just
say.
that kind of person.
You're that kind of person,
I am.
or you know somebody that's that kind of person. The next thought process here is venues, planners. They're not referring DJs that don't see the big picture. Folks, there is life beyond your booth and beyond the dance floor. And if you could only see what's in front of your nose, that is the dance floor, you have missed the big picture. Because the event, my good friend Randy Bartlett, who's going to end tonight with a great presentation, so looking forward to it. Randy said the DJ thinks it's a dance party. The photographer thinks it's a photo shoot. And the caterer thinks it's a dining experience. The truth is, it's all those things. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have that state of mind to understand that everybody's piece of the pie, piece of the puzzle, puzzle, look at that, is important to the overall perspective of the event, and not just, well, where do I set up and what time can I be there and how I did blah, blah. It's more than just you. And you have to keep that in mind if you're looking for referrals from venues. And, Mike Walter was brilliant at the Marquee Show on Tuesday. Maybe it was Wednesday. I get my days mixed up.
Thursday.
But he was it Thursday?
He was Thursday. Yeah, he was last
Man,
day.
Look, talk about rushing the show. He was brilliant when he said the number is 15. The idea that our clients are getting married 30-something, 32, 35. Mm-hmm. There's a reason that 20-year class reunions are the best. Because the 10-year class reunion, hold on, they're a yawner because everybody's concerned about how do I look and who am I dating and what is my job and what did I drive up in and how much money am I making? Forget about it. Come 20-year reunion, they're a lot fatter, they got kids, they're much more comfortable, and all they want to do is party. Well, guess what? That is the age of our couples that are now getting married. So it's no wonder that that's where our events should be skewed. And it's our responsibility to make sure that they have fun. And it's in all aspects of the event, not just my piece of the music and filling the dance floor. I love this story about filling the dance floor. I took my glasses off, which means it's really important.
This is going to be, this will be serious now. Okay, okay, I'm sitting. I'm good.
Okay, here we go. DJ says, I rocked the party last night. I was the DJ god. I had the whole dance floor packed all night long from the beginning to the end. It's true, you did. But there were 150 guests. The dance floor only holds 75 people. That means you had 75 of the same people dancing to the same genre, the same style of music all night long. And 75 other people sat around and watched. You have to rotate the audience. You have to rotate the floor. And you have to be willing to play something different. Willing to recognize that when I play this song, I'm going to lose this full dance floor, but then I'm going to gain this other audience. Mm-hmm. Whether you're talking about country or oldies or something for the adults or the kids, whatever it may be. kids, I'm off on a rant. Okay, so DJ says, I only do weddings. That's great. It's important to focus. But there is learning potential in doing something other than weddings. For example, do you have any children at your weddings? And how do you deal with those children at the weddings, right? Well, if you did birthday parties for young people, or you did some school events of some type, doesn't necessarily need to be a dance. There are lots of things that schools do. Well, there's an opportunity for you to hone that skill. That's not just about playing music. So that when your bride says, my God, when my sister got married, every single kid was yanking on her dress and pulling her here and pulling her there during her first dance. And that is not happening to me. Good. It's not going to happen. So, boys and girls, gather around right here on the edge of the dance floor. I have candy. And we're going to tell a story about how Bob and Betty first met. It's almost like a Cinderella story. And you're telling a story. It's not a game. You can call it a game. It's a point of entertainment. And that is what I want to share with you today. I want to praise that these are points of profitability for you to play beyond just pressing play. And that's what I have to say. What do you say, Dan?
I'm jotting notes down like crazy here. So that I'll tell you, that's one of the reasons why I love being a part of this night, is because I get to like jot like everybody while everybody's talking. By the way, if you guys did not pick up on that last bit, that right there, I think was worth every second of all the others put together. Of how to handle kids. I second you started telling that story, I thought back to a wedding I had at the end of May, where the dance floor that I have at this place, it's a pit, and the kids were just running like nuts because the parents, of course, were off in another room not paying attention. Now, fortunately, by the time we got to anything in that room, they were fine, but it was bad. So like instantly, I'm like, that's gold. I'm like writing this down. That's awesome.
Well, I will take that compliment, and I will resemble that compliment, and I will drink to that. Thank you very much. You know, this idea that play has to be the shoe game, mm-hmm. and that is the beginning and the end of all game is really short-sighted. As a matter of fact, I think I've played that game in my entire career 3 times.
Wow. I would have not have guessed it, but I would have not have guessed that you did it all the time, because you have such a repertoire of things that you do, and just your personality. And let's face it, when the spin is spinning, there ain't much better than that. I'm just going to say it.
Hold on, I got to get my spin on.
Yeah, the chair.
Every time a couple asks me to play that game, the shoe game, I ask them, do you want your wedding to look like that wedding? Or would you like your wedding to be unique and different? And they always want different. And that allows me then to offer them some options that are different, that create an environment of play without making it appear as though it's the same. Listen, if every DJ plays the same music and they all bring the same gear, then every wedding looks the same. And then you become the wedding mill. You're the wedding mill DJ. They all are the same. They all have a bride, they all have a groom, or they have 2 grooms and 2 brides, or whatever it is, but it's the same. What are you going to do in the in-between moments that allow you to be different than every other DJ? That allows your couple to have that same different experience.
Mm-hmm. And that customization and making it a different event and really focused on them is so important if you want to be remembered.
Yes. It's why I'm by referral only. I'll use this as an example. I did Dan's wedding, and John says, I saw you at Dan's wedding. You were fabulous. I want you to do my wedding. Great. So let's plan John's wedding. Well, you did this thing at Dan's wedding. I know, but that was Dan's wedding. What are we going to do for you, John?
But I liked what you did at Dan's wedding because you made it was so great.
Mm-hmm.
And okay. I love the feeling.
We could do the same. Client is always wrong, but we give them what they want.
There's your business lesson for tonight. The client is always wrong.
I think we turn that into a meme and make it go viral.
My mantra at the Marquee Show, which is so perfect for what you, John, and everyone at DJ News is doing, is personal development. Doing the same thing now, then nothing's going to change 6 months from now. And being exposed to your content and your information and all that you provide for DJs is just a huge service. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for the kind words, and that's really kind of our passion to jump to this evening. So, if you need to go, my friend, otherwise we could sit and talk.
But I wanted to make sure at least I stretched it a little bit for you.
Oh, we're Scott Faver. Okay, let me just flip that.
Speak during the Marquee Show. And for those of you that didn't get a chance to check it out, I definitely want to hone on this. Mike Walter referred to it and is saying as well, like they expect you to play the hits. They expect you to come out and do the things that happen at a wedding. He was talking about with the playing moment, or whether that's, some of your in-betweens with music when, going deeper in that. I'd even alluded to in the beginning, if all you're known for is basically your playlist, somebody's going to record it and somebody's going to make a way to make it automated somewhere down the road. And then now your playlist is no longer unique. I mean, really, even if you're making your own edits, at some point it becomes different, or it becomes recreatable, for lack of better terms.
I think the two areas is your playlist and your gear, and both can be easily replicated, and both of them can be, I don't want to say mass produced when it comes to, I can copy someone else's gear. I can copy someone else's. Those parts.
Uniqueness that Scott was talking about when it comes to our clients. So for example, like you said, they see us at another event and they come up and they go, hey, I love what you did at so-and-so's event. Great. But let's talk about yours. Things we can do. Yeah. And so it becomes very difficult sometimes to kind of direct them away from just whatever that element might happen to be.
Excellent.
So we got a lot of people checking in. Yeah. I'm watching the YouTube piece. I don't know if you are as close. I know you said hi to a couple of people, but Dean, we got him coming up in a little bit. I'm excited for his presentation. And we got just excited. Tonight's great, and we got some great people in the chat. So as we're going throughout this stuff tonight, by all means, keep using that chat. Keep throwing your ideas and your pinpoints and that kind of thing. And as we have an opportunity to kind of address them in between some of those seminars, we'll definitely do that as well.
Yeah, we're having a little trouble. The restream is really low. I don't know why.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing it buffering.
Yeah, without a problem here.
Thomas, hashtag customer is always wrong. T-shirts.
Yeah, that's funny. Funny.
Who wants to make them for the next expo? Let's go.
Yeah, funny, but it's true. Yeah, say that.
You know what? We wouldn't even have to spell it all out. We could do like what they did with the hashtag DBAD. We could just do CIAW. What is that? Ciao. CI. Customer is always wrong. CIAW.
Just a second. It's on my end, but I don't see it being. So my 100 by 100 is strong right now. So I'm afraid it's a restream. July, we're coming up with a big virtual night that night. That's going to be talking about DJ lighting, and we're going to have a variety of seminars around that. And it's also going to include our next virtual exhibit hall. So we've got, I think we're going to have 6 exhibitors as of right now that'll be doing time. And we'll talk more about that throughout the night. All right, I'm hoping, I see we have a green signal, so I'm hoping that maybe we are back. I hope. We'll see. Okay, so our next presentation we're going to have in just a little bit here. I think we've got is Thomas coming up next? Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, Thomas will be up next. But before we get to that, Dan, tonight was kind of talking that the microphone and MC engaging at weddings is really what tonight is about compared to last month where we talked more about kind of the wedding sales and connection and planning. And I went back to, we've talked about this on a variety of our Monday night shows, so we'll just kind of hit it again, is I did a video on 5 ways to improve your microphone skills this week, and we've talked about different aspects of that. I can't find the video. I don't know if
of course.
I was looking for it. It's like, I don't know if I put it into the training area and it's there, but it was the darndest thing. It's like, okay, I know I made the video but I don't know where it is. But anyway, so a couple of the things. We'll go through and kind of talk about this, because for those of you who don't, this is your first time or one of the few times that you've seen Dan and I, is that we both come from a teaching background. We have Dan is a current teacher. I was a teacher in a million years ago, back when we had stone tablets, and that was great. It was fun, and the kids would chip on that, and then dinosaurs would take them home after school. It was fun. So there's a little bit of different perspective when it comes to being in front of a crowd and talking to the crowd. And in our case, sometimes talking, to younger people in the crowd. So for those of you who have never had that experience, I really kind of, as much as I don't want to say it, but it really kind of gives you you're starting a little bit farther behind someone who has been in plays maybe, or in high school, or in community theater, or you have been in front of students teaching them, whether it's Sunday school or, helping at school or reading, whatever. So there's going to be some things that we probably are going to come at it a little differently, or maybe assuming that there's a level of competency, that you're not getting up in front of the room and being like, that you're just, the terror is in your eyes. Mm-hmm. And as I was watching last week, even though everyone who's on stage did a pretty nice job when it came to holding the microphone, that's really, when it comes to that mic skill, that's one of the first spots that a person has to. You have to have that skill or that knowledge of how to hold a microphone properly. As I was watching the band on Saturday night, not everybody knows how to hold a microphone. And it just amazes me that professional people don't hold a microphone properly.
It cracked me. Differences between the way everybody was holding it. You'd have some who would hold it, like with the I don't use my Yeah, holding it like this. Of course, got the screwdriver, right? You had other people. There was someone who was holding it like way down here. You had someone who was, and I was just like, I was kind of amazed, like you said, at the differences within holding it. Even the ones that were holding it, we'll say acceptable. That was different. But when it comes to bands, I think that's one of the problems that you often run into is when you have somebody that does it from a vocal performance, right? Not a speaking side. There's a lot of tricks to how you hold the microphone to make yourself sound different and sound better for singing aspects. So I think sometimes you'll run into that where they'll hold it the same way they would have for singing, but then speak, and it doesn't work for speaking. Like it doesn't have that same effect that it does for the singing aspect.
Yeah, and what we're referring to that is one of obviously is the cupping of the microphone, where you've got the element completely in your, and rappers will do this. The microphones, if we've done a show with Ben Stowe talking about this, and Mike Dussault, I think I've asked him that question. They cringe when they see that, because these microphones are not meant to have that. When he talked about our studio microphone here, and he talks about how these little vents on the side are designed to work with the microphone for noise optimization. And obviously, if a person would have those covered tightly, which I just can't do with this, those things interfere with it. So holding the microphone, having your hand on the proper part of the microphone, obviously is the starting point. The other that is interesting is that you've got some people who hold it at the 4 inches or so away. If you watch Allenberg, Mike Walter, they are very, very good at that, because they have done that for a long period of time with a lot of success. And then you'll have some people who will take it and they'll hold it down about a foot, foot and a half. And as someone who has tried to do sound for meetings like that, that becomes very difficult. And as a DJ, we know that, okay, this doesn't work because when people are doing their toasts, we have that problem. Well, the opposite is that if I have it within an inch of my mouth, sometimes, you can have that overmodulation that doesn't work. So starting off to have a better MC experience, learning how to hold a microphone and being consistent, and that means practicing with it, I think is really important.
And it's very hard to start out with the idea, exactly like you said, not just practicing, because we can all learn what we're going to do. But then I think what ends up happening is we get into the moment and our nerves take over, the good nerves that we have, going into an event, nobody's going to, well, I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people go in, even having the slightest bit of nerves, and you suddenly revert back to your old methods. Or you get into the excitement mode, like the night's really going on, and all of a sudden, if you were the type of person who really like get it up there, and it's like, oh my gosh, I just did that. Like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Having that practice, over and over and over and over again, so it becomes the new method that you never even remember the old one anymore.
And that muscle memory is so important in everything.
Yeah.
Speaking, doing this because otherwise something will happen and someone will say, can you quick make an announcement? Somebody fell over there. We need to get the people out of the way, whatever it is. And you're like, oh yeah, sure. I'll make an announcement. All right, everybody, let's go. Wait, no, that's my bad muscle memory skills. Bad muscle memory skills. Yeah. Seems like our buffering has cleared up. Yay. So those of you who are watching, thank you for sticking with us and such. If you go to DJNTV.com/virtual expo, that's where the main YouTube player is also located. So you can jump out there if you're on Facebook, because I think we had about 65 people here just a little bit ago that are checking in on us. So, okay, cool. Let's get a couple more here. Another one that I had talked about at one time was the idea of reading children's books, especially Dr. Seuss books. That reading children's books and reading them out loud can really be a little bit of a challenge when it comes to your tempo of your speech, your dictation, your pronunciation. I mean, think about it. When your kids were little, Dan, and you were reading those books, how did that affect your speech, your microphone work?
Well, and you hit it right on the nail on the head. I mean, first off, think about children's books. They're meant to be read, right? They're meant to be read out loud. And so working with those in such a cadence, because they're also short. So if you read them, you're done in like 5 seconds. So to be able to work through that cadence, to be able to really open that up. And if you ever really want to work on your chops to the point that you will be numb probably the first few times you even try to do it, let alone even maybe make it all the way through, Fox and Socks was recommended me by a college professor. It is the worst for working on enunciation because it is so meticulous and so similar within a lot of the words. It will get you to practice that muscle in your mouth so well.
Great suggestion with that particular book. There's many Dr. Seuss books that will give you that, but Fox and Socks would definitely be one of those towards the top of the list.
When it's got normal words too, sometimes Dr. Seuss books has like the words that are completely made up. It doesn't have any of those.
It's in a couple of those books the kids really got into towards the latter part of their children's book at night time. And some of those, it's like, oh, I have no idea what these words are. But once you're into that rhythm and then it's like, oh, that's what that word is. That's how it's pronounced. Just because it's like very, very interesting. But I think that rhythm for watching my viewers or my listeners, my youngsters, and being able to read it lively enough and read it in a tempo in which I'm going to hold them. Mm-hmm. Beyond the pronunciation and enunciation side of it, there's just so many valuable things. And if you don't have children, I can lead into the next one, is that there's nothing wrong with recording what you're doing and then watching it and then kind of giving yourself a little idea, looking at that and saying, wow, I didn't really understand what I said there on page 2 of that book because I slurred my words, or I ran them together too quickly, or I put a pause in a place in which there wasn't a pause, and that changed the whole meaning of that little stanza of words. Just recording sometimes can help tremendously.
Absolutely.
Okay, I don't think hopefully we're not buffering anymore. Let's see. There's one more I wanted to, the idea of, and this is something that kind of fits into recording where a person is looking at that. But if you're not into recording, and this is, I probably did this about a month and a half ago before my first wedding of getting back into this. So this would have been in March, is actually going and reading the wedding party introductions in front of a mirror. So I was basically, I held it up a little bit more so I could get an idea of what kind of things I was saying and what kind of things I was doing. And I was intentionally wanting to make eye contact with myself, that I would read and make eye contact every couple, so that I wasn't going to be doing the whole, looking down at my script the whole time. It helped prepare, because there's always the preparing where I'm reading my script. But when I'm reading my script, I'm not looking up and I'm not checking in on myself. So utilizing
eye contact is key. It goes tremendously for the audience. Even if even the old adage, you look at the top of their heads, so you're not completely like off, but just having that extra piece, having that extra connection can make a tremendous piece. And if you're able to do it during introductions, I mean, that's one of those key moments where you can't really be completely on autopilot unless you got, the memory of a lot of these people who, do memory tricks. You're looking down, like you almost have to at some point. So, being able to go back and forth and keep your spot is also a sign that you've written your script well and that you practiced it the right way.
And you mentioned, of course, introductions. And many times when we're doing the introductions, we're here in the room and they're going to be walking from the other side of the room and they're going to go to the head table that's over in the corner. So really there isn't a time beyond the beginning of it, the welcome of the introduction. Otherwise, you've directed their attention over to the door as they're walking through. So they're really not looking at you. And for some people, they'll be like, well, I'm just going to read my script and go right on down. But there's so many opportunities that can happen during an introduction, a wedding party introduction. A groomsman might do something silly. A bridesmaid might come in there and do an action from somewhere. It might be from a movie or something. And when the bridesmaids might do this, and if you can be in the moment and have some fun with that, and I can't be in the moment if I'm looking here, and if I've trained myself to look at that script the whole time, a person's got to be that. Look up and pay attention to the world around you just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Okay, let's see. Thomas Heath. Thomas is coming up next. Thomas Heath is coming to us from the upper part of the lovely state of Michigan. And Thomas, his presentation that he's going to be doing for us tonight is, I believe, introduced them already. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Thomas Heath.
Hi, my name is Thomas Heath. I am a DJ. I am an MC, which is a master of ceremonies. I am an announcer. I am a wedding planner. I'm a presenter. My wife and I have 3 rescue pit bulls, and we have 2 grown-up human children as well. Weddings are our passion, and it is our full-time career, and we've made it that way in a destination wedding market with a city of 5,600 people. What was that? That was an introduction. I could have turned this on, I could have hit record and said, "Hi, I'm Tom," and then just went into the presentation. It would have been shorter. It would have been more succinct. You might know who I am. You might have heard of me. You might have seen some of the other things that I've created on Disc Jockey News and Facebook and stuff like that. But an introduction does a lot of things. Number one, it tells you who that person is, and not just who that person is, but why you're there. It gives you insight into the passion or the reason that they are teaching or why they're in front of you. And the biggest thing that it does is it lets you know why you should care about this person that's just been introduced to you. Now, I'm sure that a lot of people do something that I have called the grand yelling of names. And that is when a wedding DJ or wedding professional does their grand introduction by just saying people's names. Sometimes they don't even use their last name. They're doing this to a room full of people, and some of those people will know who these people are, and they will know why that person is important to the couple. But not everyone will know that. And that would be the same thing as if the couple grabbed their best man and said, "Aunt Karen, this is Jim," and walked away. Aunt Karen would be confused. And she would be wondering why, and there's my dogs. She'd be wondering why this person's in front of her, why Jim is dressed the same as Jack, Joe, and Bob, and why did Jim get to stand up during their ceremony, and why does Jim get to eat before everybody else? It's a good thing to do. It's to get to know these people. And it doesn't take a lot of work.
Catherine's oldest sister is coming in next. She is very vegan, super sweet, and she wants all animals to live forever. She's coming in with a guy who is my best friend since college. They were RAs together and hid a pair of hamsters in the dorm for an entire year. Matron of Honor Jennifer and groomsman Dr. Rahul.
One of the things that an introduction will do really well is it will connect you with the people that are in the room in front of you. And the reason that happens is because you're explaining why these people are important. And it shows that you are connected a little bit more with the couple that you're in front of. Now, I said it doesn't take a lot of work, and that's really true. What it does take is a few questions, and you don't want this to be a long and drawn out exercise. You're going to ask questions like, who is this person to you? And you're asking this of the couple. What do they do? And give me one fun fact about that person. Now, from the wedding I just did last week, Tori Cameron was the maid of honor. She met the bride, Amanda, at her house when she was 6 months old. She is a student. She is an ROTC cadet. And she claims to have shared the bed first. It was an inside joke. And that simple fact, that one sentence, made the entire room laugh. The ROTC cadet made everyone cheer. And the 6 months old made that entire room say, "Ah." That's a connection that you can't get just by saying, "Maid of honor, Tori." It's not the same. Getting to know your people is extremely important for this process. And you have to make sure that when you're doing this, you're also not extending it to a point where it's too long. There is a point. And my belief, again, is that these things, these 3 facts, need to be in 2 sentences or less, or else you'll start to lose people. And especially with a large wedding party. Like this is, you probably can't see. Okay, this is Amanda and Nathan's wedding party list. They each had 8 people standing up with them. So that's 16 introductions of people. if those introductions took any longer than 10 seconds apiece, people would start to tune out by number 5 or number 6. So brevity is where the power lies for this, to keep people engaged. So my best thing, and my best advice for you would be to come up with a way that you can get to know the people in the wedding parties that you're working. Get some information about those people so that you can introduce them already. Let everybody in on the joke. Let everybody know why these people are the VIPs for each and every one of your weddings. Again, my name is Thomas Heath. Thank you so much. Have a great show. Back to you, John.
And that was Thomas Heath. Introduce them already. I'll tell you that would really kind of fit into some of the stuff that we were talking about beforehand. And I promise I didn't know what he was going to talk about. John may have, but no, I think that was key. I mean, just if you think about, just when you talk to somebody and you introduce a friend, you don't just say, "Hey, here's John," walk away. You do something more. And I think too often times we get hung up on this. We need to make the announcement like we're bringing in the next fighter, and we just say their name because we're going to bring this person, together to the room, and we have to do it like high, over the top energy. And yes, there's a way to do that, but I think having that connection light years better. And
I think when it comes to the guests and to be able to help them connect with the wedding party, with the introductions, is a neat factor, whether it's that little tidbit or that moment that you can create with that. But as Thomas was talking, that it's a balancing act. I want to be able to do these things. I want to make it personal. I want to make it so that I'm taking people to either an awe moment or a yay moment. And then I've got to do this in this very set amount of time before it becomes too cumbersome for the people, and then they get bored and they start looking at their phones and saying, "God, is this guy ever going to shut up?" type of thing. Because Lord knows that sometimes happens when we get going.
I think it's key also for you to be the one who writes these. I've had couples in the past who wanted to do this. This was like before I ever really kind of understood a lot of it. And they're like, "Hey, we got this idea. We wanted to do it." And I'm like, "Sure, run with it." And so they would feel like they needed to give the person justice. They needed to write a paragraph.
Yep.
And me being kind of ignorant on it was like, "Okay, here we go.
Here's a paragraph. Let's go."
Yeah. And yeah, it would draw on. And it was like, yeah, it was great to the person, that was coming in. Like, it was great things being said about them, but it would lost people. I think he even said, if it's anything longer than 10 seconds after 6 or 7 people, you're done. Like, you're toast.
Yeah. When he's talking big wedding party like that, it's like, oh. And I started thinking about it. Say, wait a second, that one,
that's really, that's 8 aside. So that might be on the larger side, but in the same respect, 5 on a side, is that really that large?
Yeah, that's kind of common.
That's probably a little bit more common.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you're gonna lose people before you ever get to the end. And who's at the end? The bride and groom. So you don't want to lose them before you get to your couple.
So what you're saying, Dan, is we should start with the bride and groom. That way, if we lose them towards the end.
Yeah, who cares about the ones that are on the outside?
The ushers and the personal attendant at the end. Yeah, whoever's at the end, that's them. But yeah, good stuff, Thomas. Thank you very much for putting that together for us tonight. That was good stuff. Okay, so next we've got Dean Carlson. Dean Carlson is coming to us out of the kind of the Duluth area of Minnesota. If you're familiar with Minnesota and the Lake Superior, that's where Dean has kind of based his wedding business out of up there. And he's been a writer for the paper. He's been a contributor for content and spoken at our conventions and such over the years. So, and he's a good personal friend. So, Dean's going to be talking about the effect of
the effective MC skills
and
creative content. I got your back, John.
Yeah, that was much more difficult to say than I thought. The 2 letters together, that should be easy. But if you guys have ever gotten a chance to catch some of Dean's teaching when he's been speaking at different conventions and such, he is very much into being the creative side based around the couple. Basically, they come up with and say, hey, I love this. And it really kind of builds well off what Thomas Heath has been talking about. So I'm really excited to hear that. So let's jump into that, ladies and gentlemen. Dean Carlson.
Hi, I'm Dean Carlson. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank John Young for once again further developing our industry into a legitimate and viable source of income for those of us that DJ. For the next 10 minutes, I'll be your host as we walk down the effect of professional MC skills on any creative content. For those of you that don't know me, I honestly think one of the main reasons that I've been able to sustain my career of choice as a DJ for over the last 30 years is because I'm always looking into the unknown when it comes to helping my clients create fun and unique wedding receptions. And because of this, I only have to do one wedding show, bridal show, a year as far as advertising goes. And the rest of my business is all word of mouth. So let me start by asking you a very pointed question. Have you ever been to an event where the person in charge was speaking, yet half the crowd wasn't listening, let alone paying attention? Now let's get real with this question. Has it ever been one of your events? I'll be honest, in my 3 decades of DJing, this has happened to me on more than one occasion. You ever wonder why that is? We can sit back, we can blame everyone and everything around us, but the truth of the matter is when you point fingers at someone, you're still pointing 3 straight back at you. When we get hired to DJ an event, and I guess I should specify I'm only talking about non-bar gigs or raves here, but they are hiring us as a professional. And in the last 20 years, a lot more of us are actually getting paid a professional grade of income. Now, as a professional, DJ, gone are the days when we can just sit back and play music all night. We are so much more now. Almost all the DJs I surround myself with, are that, much, much more. But one of those skill sets that a professional DJ uses is Master of Ceremonies, or MC. I don't really know how many wedding DJs there are in the United States, but in Duluth, Minnesota, there are 80,000 people here, and that means we have 8 to 10 companies, 2 of which have more than 10, so I'm guessing about 50 DJs work here. And of those 50 DJs, only 2 that I know of have ever taken professional MC training or ever had any class on proper mic use or vocal use. That's 2%. And I'm not sure what the national average is, but I'm guessing that it's a lot less. So why is this important? Well, I'm glad you didn't ask, and I had the forethought to ask for you. A professional master of ceremonies, according to the web, is an official host of a ceremony, staged event, conference, convention, or similar performance, i.e. weddings. He or she is the person in charge of directing, guiding, and informing the guests. Now, there is no way that I can teach you how to become a proper MC in a 10-minute TED-style talk. What I am here to do is to show you that this skill set elevates your events and creates things you do while making some lucky days couple so incredible. The first thing being a top-notch MC does for you, it builds your audience's trust. Unlike your clients, whom you've met with multiple times and had hours of conversation with to set up this spectacular day, the guests don't know you. At first, you're just a talking head. Yep, 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 yep. Remember when I asked you earlier if you've ever seen a group of people disrespect the speaker? Well, this is the number one reason. You have to give them a reason to trust you. So here's a pro tip. The quickest way to lose your audience's trust is to be fake or insincere. If you sound like a cheesy radio host, sing-songing your words, "Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?" The audience will immediately classify you for the rest of the night. Within 2 sentences, after you first open the mic at an event, you have been judged and classified. So here's my pro tip. Just be natural. This was a lesson that took me years to understand, but has paid dividends for me since. You may not like your voice, but people can tell when you're using it. The second thing you get from being an amazing MC is respect. And although the words we use are very important, how you say those well-crafted words is even more important. Proper stance, be inclusive to each and every one of the guests. Be well-spoken are all things that will gain your audience's respect. And respect, once earned, is an amazing gift from the audience. It allows you to do so much more with them. So here's another pro tip. And although not strictly falling under the MC description, during dinner I visit each and every table and I personally introduce myself. And then I ask them, what they'd like to dance to that night. I'm very specific with my words. Most of the time the older guests will point to the younger ones and say, "Ask them." But I remind them that we are all here to have a good time. And literally at multiple tables, they will say they've never heard a DJ do this. And the older guests, they will never come up to the DJ booth and they will never ask you a song to play there. But they will be the first one to complain to the bride and groom saying, "That DJ was horrible. He didn't play anything that we could dance to." But if you do play their songs and you do listen to them and are personable, you are actually multiplying both the trust and respect that are crucial to pulling off unique activities later on. I believe Randy Bartlett is going to speak tonight after I do, and one of his mantras is catchphrases DJs overuse, like "Ladies and gentlemen," or more importantly, "May I have your attention, please?" The reason DJs use any catchphrase is twofold. One, they haven't had proper training, and number two, they've not earned their guests' trust and respect. Proper MCs are wordsmiths, and to be quite honest, we don't have to use phrases like that, like "May I have your attention, please?" because we've earned both trust and respect. Okay, let's tie this all into creative activities. When I do activities such as games or interactions, I really want to develop the possibility of unique things to happen. So first off, I almost never start an activity by telling my audience what I'm going to do. Why, you may ask? Well, telling your audience you need a volunteer to XYZ sets a preconceived notion of what you're going to do and what's going to happen in their head. And then it gives them the opportunity to either tune you out or, even worse, to stop them from actually doing what you ask. Now, through the use of your MC skills, you have developed both trust and respect. You can ask people to do almost anything. I guarantee it. It has happened to me over and over again. If you've never read the book Top Performer by Stephen Ludden and Carl Hagerman, I highly suggest that you go out and buy it and listen to it, or listen to it on audiobook. And although the entire book describes how to set up and do live interactions with a crowd, 2 points they make in there apply here. Mind the mess and juice the jam. Now, the mess is a situation of unknown. It is everything around you. People, places, things. It is filled with performance gold, I'm telling you. So by getting people to volunteer for some unknown thing, you are actually creating a mess palette to work from. You have no idea what they're going to do. They have no idea what you're going to do. The mess, in that mess, things happen that you can use. When you use those things that happen in the mess, that is called juicing the jam. The audience knows something unexpected just happened, and if you can use it in some way, you have now exponentially increased the reaction from that crowd. Bigger laughs, bigger applause, and because of that, you've elevated the entire event for your clients. When you think of this, think about how comedians handle hecklers as a small example. Now, they don't always want that to happen, or do they? Because the audience knows something unexpected happened. If they handle it well, the audience explodes and it elevates the energy in the room, making the memories that much stronger. elevates the energy. So let me end with a real example from my last wedding. First of all, I started by using my MC skills from the start, doing a dynamic welcome, which I used then to transition into a Grand March. And don't be confused, the Grand March entrance skill set is different than the MC skill set. That's called announcing. I continue to use my MC skill set after the Grand March through the start of dinner. Now I've established trust and respect. Now, at weddings, and this wedding did a buffet, what we do is I suggest creative table releasing. Creative table releasing is very easy. Quick hit, fun little activities, and if your table wins that activity, your table gets to eat next. Lots of fun, especially for slow buffets. Well, somewhere in the middle of this, I always ask for 5 couples to come play with me. This is the only instructions I give. And at this wedding, 5 couples came up. 1 couple was a man and woman. The other 4 were both women together. At least 3 of these couples were clearly not couples. This is a mess that I artificially created, and I knew that that was possible. So I juiced this. And then I say, these couples will now demonstrate the bride and groom's first kiss ever. The room erupts, knowing that there is now a mess. But they also know that there are 3 couples that aren't couples. This is where I get to juice that jam. We have to be careful, of course, here because they could have been couples, but in this case, they weren't. So we've now created this energy in the room, all of which was set up by earning trust and respect early on through professional Master of Ceremony skills. So do yourself a favor and find some actual MC or mic skill training. I'm not sure if Randy Bartlett is still doing it or not, but I do know that Mark Farrell is still offering the Marbecca Method workshops. You can check into those. I think there are some this fall and definitely next spring at the Photo Booth Expo. Also, you can learn a lot from Bill Herman's Entertainment Experience, and that is happening, I believe, in November of this year. So check into that. I've taken both of those courses. This year, I'm going to spend about $6,000 on further education. Now, I do want to make the distinction between workshops and seminars like the Marquee or DJ Times or the Photo Booth Expo. Those are good. You get content directed at you, but what you don't get is the ability to practice that and get feedback. That's why workshops are so important. So here's my final pro tip. Budget professional education into your finances. Remember, it's also a tax write-off. Good luck and great shows. Thank you.
So that was Dean coming to us from the, well, it isn't White North, but North. Kind of.
Close enough.
Close enough. So we talk about, being in the moment and being there for the audience and having some fun with the audience. And then he talks about some of Carr Hagerman, some of the things we learned from Carr at our different conventions over the years. And when they introduced the Top Performer book, that was kind of cool to be taken back to that mid-2000, it was probably 2006, 7, 8 in that ballpark. And it's like, I remember those. That was cool. That was fun. So, a little flashback for me there. Oh, but yeah, that being in the moment was kind of a cool idea. I really wanted to know what happened to the couples though. Did they demonstrate the kiss? Was there that one that was the so off the wall, embarrassing one that you have to be on the microphone? Like, come on, people, this is a family show. We're doing, that kind of a thing where you can juice the jam with a few little catchphrases or things that you've developed over the years as you have done activities similar to that would get that crowd to kind of elevate the fun just a little bit more.
Well, you've got to play off of it a little bit because once you've gotten the purposeful mess up, as he was calling it, you've got to think about where that's going to go. And that's one of the things that anytime you're talked about with improv and things like that is it's always thinking about 3 steps ahead. So if you purposely set it up for the possibility of a mess up, that's fine. Make sure you've got that next piece ready to go in your back pocket for whichever direction it might go.
And I think this kind of circles back to, he's talking training there at the very end with Mark Farrell, Bill Herman, and if Randy's going to be, if he does something again, the training, but there's other training out there, right? Whether it's Toastmasters, which really wouldn't, it would fit to a point in this, but it really wasn't that being in the moment and engaging. But that improv, many comedy troupes do improv training for corporations, and they offer it for the regular Joes on the street type of thing. And I think this is definitely a spot where having those skills and developing that will help in that moment when Dean asks for 5 couples, and there's all of a sudden two guys that are like two arm wrestling buddies from they're married to some, and they come up there because they're going to be funny. Mm-hmm. And they want to try to be funny, and they want to try to whatever it is we're going to do it, man. It's probably jumping hay bales, and we're the best at that, so we're going to win. Yeah. Well, here's what it is. So fun.
I think we found another hashtag for tonight. So we got hashtag CIAW and now hashtag Juice the Jam. So these shirts, we're just going to have a bunch of hashtags, and then people are going to ask you about it, and you're going to have to come back and be like, listen, there was all this training and you missed out. So you need to go watch it, and then you'll get all of our jokes.
See, Thomas mentions, here's the hashtag. Yeah, I see that there. Yeah, Kyle, I was hoping to hear that too. And then he wrapped up. So it'll be a few.
That means you're just going to have to ask Dean himself. Reach out and be like, hey, what happened?
What happened, man? But Dean was with us earlier, so I don't know if he's still on the there he is. Yeah, he's still with us.
Yeah,
he's still there. So yeah, maybe he can put it in the chat room of what ended up happening. But it could have been funny. That could have been funny. Okay, hey, we are up to our next presenter, Mr. Jani himself.
Yeah. So in case you're going like, wait a minute, didn't he help us out last time? And didn't he speak the first time? Jason is that good. Jason is that cool of a guy that he is going to be part of our shows. Because he knows his thing and he knows how to help us. And tonight, John, what is he talking about tonight?
He's got 6 MC tips for us tonight. Excuse me. And yeah, the Jason is we talked to him earlier, and he's like, I want to be part, because he's really got a passion for giving back to the industry, and he wants to help his fellow DJs out there. And he's like, can I? And it's like, yeah, because again, as Dan said, this guy's a wealth of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to tip but lighting is next month. And Jason's like, can I do a double dose of Jani next month? And it's like, oh yeah, we'll make this happen. So yeah, because that's his, the music and mixing, that's a big part of him. But I mean, a close second is their lighting and what they do with it. And if you guys have seen some of the video things that they have done at Mobile Beats in the past, Jason and his team were really involved with a lot of those aspects of the programming and lighting and video. So yeah, a double dose of Jani coming to us in July.
I'm excited for that, because I know how passionate he is about the mixing, because that's what we hear from him. And that's where you see like Mixcloud and stuff like that. And so, okay, we'll talk about next month later.
Yeah, let's get Jason up here next.
So on that, again, Mr. Jason Jani with 6 MC tips.
What's up, everyone? It is Jason Jani. Welcome back to my channel. It is great to have you here. And in this video, I want to share with you 6 tips on things that you can do to become a better MC when DJing parties in the future. And being a DJ and being an MC kind of goes hand in hand. And although some MCs are not DJs and some DJs can't MC, I think having an understanding for these principles will put you in a better position in the future, in the event that you have to get on the microphone to make some announcements or to lead an event. And it doesn't matter if you've been doing this for a long time or you're new to the game. I've tried to pull together a couple of tips or schools of thought to help anyone, no matter what type of events that they work at frequently and no matter where they are. So whether you're new or you've been doing this for a long time, I hope you find value in the things I'm about to share with you. Before I get started on sharing this content, I'd love to invite you to drop down below, crush that subscribe button so you support everything that goes on here on this channel. I think if you do that, it's a win for the people that create the content, but also for yourself, because you'll be able to stay in the know when future content drips out here in the days, weeks, and months ahead. Now, I want to share with you some examples and some stories and some things that I've observed people doing, some corrections that I've given to even my own team when observing them at events over the past couple of years. These are principles based on real deal things that I've seen real deal people maybe miss the mark on. And whether I was attending an event or I was observing the event, these are things that I think anyone anywhere could either be reminded of as a refresher or could use to put in play to make them even better at what they do, helping making memories for people that trust us with these really, really, really super cool celebrations. So I want to share with them. I'm going to kind of rapid fire them out. And the first tip I want to share with you is the importance of having a plan and having it documented and organized in an easy to follow fashion before you arrive on site at that event. Having key items like pronunciations of names or songs organized in a way that are easy to follow. Must play songs, do not play songs, songs that are associated with different milestone moments like a special dance or a parent dance or an honored this or a song that's played when they cut the cake or when they walk up to the stage or whatever it is, depending on the type of event that you're doing is really like where it's at. I think it's super critical if you want to become an incredibly good wedding MC or an event MC or party MC to kind of have your stuff together before you arrive on site. I think that's number one. And I think the second part of this actual tip is to share the plan with the other professionals that are on site and working so that they are all in the know and they are aware of what is going on, when it is to go on, and what kind of the purpose of it is. It allows them to kind of get in the best position to do their framework for their job, and it sets everyone up for success. Number two is using first names whenever possible and never using the descriptives like bride and groom when recalling things. Although the title bride or groom is relevant in a wedding situation, I think it's better if you're able to call that couple by their first names. You become more relatable. And even when you have the floor rocking, if you're recalling some of the wedding party names of the bridesmaids or the groomsmen or the people that are there in the room tonight, I think it helps you become kind of in line and connected to the party. That's a compliment that I've received a number of times, especially recently, that parties are now happening again, that I'm calling out the members of the wedding tribe by first name when they're on the dance floor and I see them having a good time and they put their hands up and they feel special. I think that's really like what it's all about. Not overdoing it, but tastefully kind of recalling and becoming relatable and becoming kind of like part of that group is really like where this message is. Lose the descriptives and connect with the first names of the people whenever possible. That's the tip. Tip number two. Tip number three is about breathing and timing and avoiding crutch phrases and things like any type of kind of pause that's awkward is not a good thing. Constantly saying makes you look unprofessional, and people are used to seeing other MCs or hosts on television speak properly. They watch videos on YouTube where people are speaking properly. So the more you do that, the less professional you can look. Avoid using crutch phrases like at this time and then making the announcement. Rather than using at this time or saying ladies and gentlemen and making that announcement, just make the announcement. I think less is more, getting right to the point is better, and holding the attention of the crowd without being too wordy is really where this is at. Tip number four is about understanding your role and knowing your room. Adapting to the framework of the event that you are presently attending is super important. The same approach that you would have for a 300-person plus wedding event is going to be very, very different if you have a 45-person holiday party. And although you still are going to be professional, the way you're going to address people in a black tie gala versus a blue jean kind of social is very, very different. Make sure that you keep your eyes open. Make sure that you adapt and adjust your framework, the way you are speaking, to properly represent the event and yourself, but to fit more in line with the framework for what's going on. I think another kind of sideline kind of key to this thing is to be aware of the people in the room. If you see that a table in the back is super hype and high energy when you're making announcements, acknowledge them in the back. It allows you to connect to that party, and it might inspire other people to get more energetic while you're doing whatever it is that you're doing or saying or get in that moment. I think acknowledging certain things, if you see someone with a really cool jacket and they're all out of control energy, acknowledge them. If you see someone kind of like whatever, take the ball that is given to you or the opportunities that are given to you when you're hosting and try to incorporate that however you can in a tasteful and professional manner. It'll allow you to adapt to the room. The purpose of this tip is so that you don't use the same approach every time you go out. You want to kind of keep the foundation the same, but you want to adjust so that you fall in line to what's appropriate to the event, to the vision, to the vibe, to the atmosphere for where you're at that day specifically. Tip number 5 is about speaking on a microphone. If you are going to speak on a microphone and you are going to be playing music at the same time, try not to speak over heavily worded audio at the same time. And an extension of that is to make sure that you duck the audio, meaning like you pull the audio down when you're speaking on the microphone so that you're not speaking and competing with the song that's being played at that moment in time. I think it is super important, and I think that this is one of those things that people that have been doing this for a long time clearly understand, but I see a lot of people that are newer to the game making this mistake. When you speak on the microphone, make sure you pull the volume down. If you are going to be speaking at a point in a song that has wording or a melody or something that is super busy from an audio perspective, it is critical that you are not trying to compete with that vocal or that part of that song and have everything at the same volume. It will be harder for people to understand if things are playing super loud and you are getting on a microphone, because all they're going to hear is wah, 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 wah. It's going to sound like bad karaoke before it becomes impactful or effective for someone that is listening to what you're saying. So the point here is when you're speaking on a microphone, make sure that you try to avoid wording or heavily worded or melodic parts of a song, but also bring the volume down on the mixer and speak with authority so that your voice sits on top of the music and doesn't compete with what's going on. That's the key to this tip. The last tip is all about kind of owning the room and owning the presence. And it's something that I see a lot of people that are newer to the game kind of drop the ball on. And this tip is super important. So if you're someone that has to make an announcement, it is important that you have people's attention before you just start kind of commanding the room and giving direction on whatever is going to happen. I was attending a wedding not too long ago where the MC just came out and said, all right, welcome everyone to this wedding. We're here, blah, blah, blah. And please make some noise for the parents of our bride, whatever. And they came in the room and like people were still in the middle of the conversation. And that's what we want to avoid. One thing that I like to always do is I like to walk out in the middle of the room. I dim the lights. I put a spotlight on the dance floor so that there's a visual kind of component to this. And this is, of course, if I have lighting, and I'm speaking about a framework of kind of like a wedding celebration. And I'll say, good evening, everyone. Welcome to whatever the bride's name is, whatever the groom's name, wedding. Are we ready to have a good time tonight? And if people are like, oh, like you get like a half of a hand clap kind of crowd, I'll say that wasn't very good. Let me try that again. And I'll say, good evening, everyone on this side of the room. Are you guys ready to have some fun tonight? And like get them a little bit hyped. Then I go to the other side of the room. Then I get everyone in. The point of me doing that is not to kind of get into like an interactive skit with the crowd, but it's to get people in the mode of listening to what I have going on and that something is about to happen. I don't want the couple or I don't want people to walk into the room in the framework of an introduction until I have everyone's attention and complete attention. So through music, through lighting, and through vocal kind of posting and direction, I try to hit all senses so that when I do speak, people are ready to listen. And in the beginning of a wedding, when people may be having drinks, they might not have seen people for a long time, they're in the zone, in the moment, whatever, you might have to get creative with this. So make sure that you own the room before you just start ripping into introductions or descriptives or providing direction for whatever moment is taking place. This is super important, and it's something that I see a lot of people miss the mark on. Owning the room, commanding the room is really the key of this point. Before you provide direction, make sure you have people's attention, because there's nothing worse than having someone come into the room and having that whole side of the family not even paying attention to them and no one kind of clapping or no one acknowledging what's going on. It falls flat, so to speak, and that's what we try to avoid. Anyway, my name is Jason Jani. I hope you enjoyed these tips, and I'd love to hear from you. So comment away, post any tips that you have or you'd like to share with me in terms of things that you do to host or MC events better. And I appreciate you checking out this video right here on the DJNN virtual learning kind of sessions. Shout out to John Young and the entire DJNN tribe of people. There's so many good people connected to the universe over here, and it's just an honor to be part of this. Anyway, thanks for checking this out. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below, and if you're not yet connected with me on my YouTube, I'd love to invite you to kind of join me over there. Just search for Jason Jani right here on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you real soon.
So there was
Well,
Jason. Yeah.
We're so excited. Who's gonna go? Who's gonna?
So, yeah. So I've got notes. I don't know.
I do too.
Yeah. So let's go through our notes here a little bit, and we'll get Randy up here in a bit. So a lot of great information. It's really kind of cool to see how things interweave between our presenters tonight. So that's kind of a neat thing. So if you're not catching it from one person, you're hearing a little bit different presentation of the same concept from another. So I like that.
It's like the Chinese water torture trip.
Okay, great. You had to go there. And you could have said any nice
it's not
thing.
torture, but you get what I'm getting at.
I do, but you just had to make a visual that makes people cringe a little bit, and I'm gonna have nightmares now, man.
I will say one note that I want to kind of put a slight plug in. Number 5, he was talking about ducking and not taking over the words. There's a great software out there that real DJs tend to use as opposed to the one that John likes to use. And it's virtual DJ, and it has the stem feature. So you can take those vocals out. Now, it's not perfect, mind you, but if you find that you're needing to make it, especially over introductions, like the bride just has to have this song and there's not an instrumental one out there, it's a great opportunity for you to go ahead and use the stem feature to be able to take those vocals out.
That was actually one of them. This past weekend, I was doing sound over a carnival, about 4 acres of a carnival. So we were doing announcements throughout the day, and there are many times where an announcement had to be made right now in the midst of a song. So we could have done, as Jason kind of recommended, is to wait for an instrumental section or something to that effect where you weren't speaking over the vocals, or you just, once it's set on stem, you turn the top, your high gain or your high EQ on your controller down, which in this case is the vocal. You turn it down, you can talk over it, and it worked incredibly well. It's like, oh my gosh. So the old days of knowing, okay, I've got 10 seconds at the beginning of the song to be able to post the song properly and make your announcements, and then and then the song takes off. I don't need to worry about that anymore. I just have to go and do it. And when I decided to pull my earbuds
You're so
out.
excited.
I was so excited because I remember the days when we used to try to teach DJs how to post songs and how difficult that was. And now they don't have to worry about that whatsoever. They just have to be there.
I wouldn't go that far, but I do admit that, especially if you're making those announcements, especially the announcements that cannot wait, that need to be right there in the moment, having those features like that on a software is
golden.
Exactly.
Yeah, that
exactly.
it is. So the one of them, Jason, I think it was number 3. He talked about, he mentioned breathing, and then he talked about went off and was talking about the announcements and such. The idea of, and we didn't even mention this, but the importance of breathing and to be able to do that, because we've all heard that person speaking where they're talking and they're running things too close together and they're taking and then they're talking really fast about and you've heard that, and that becomes a problem when a person isn't speaking with a tempo and a flow so that the breathing becomes noticeable. It's kind of like the referees, good referees in a basketball game or football game. If they're doing their job, you really don't notice that they're there. They call the game and just continues moving on. That's kind of what breathing is like when you're doing an MC thing. People really shouldn't notice that it's happening. It just should happen at those little moments and things continue.
If you're breaking your breathing up the right way, and of course, focusing on breathing techniques and learning how to breathe the right way, and so that you get the best sound out of your voice as well.
Right.
You can continue to talk and like sneak in those little breaths to where you don't ever have to take that breath that you're talking about. Like you fit it in between the sentences in just the right way and making those right pauses that it just allows you to keep talking.
Every once in a while when you're listening to someone who's doing a cover of a band or song, listening to it on YouTube or watching it on YouTube, what have you, and you'll hear someone who does that. They're singing the whole verse or they'll sing the whole stanza of music and then they come back again and do it. And it's like, oh my gosh. You don't realize how annoying that is until you hear it in a situation
You're doing
like
a bunch.
that. And it's like, oh, that's not very nice. Let's see. What did you have for another note there?
I liked his other piece, and he kind of ended with this one with the owning the room. That is such a hard thing to learn. I really think, because it comes with, you have to have the confidence to do it. And so until you've taught yourself kind of how to have this I don't care attitude, for the lack of better terms, about yourself, it's hard to get the confidence that you need to have to be able to do it in the right way. And I don't mean like you have to have that all the time, but the first couple of times where you finally teach yourself that it's okay, that you are going to command the room, you have to convince yourself that it's going to happen. And then once you've done that, then you know how it feels. Then you know how you need to feel to have that command of the room. And again, it's, that's the first piece, I think, in owning the room. The second piece, obviously, is before you go into having a full-on moment, own the room in the other fashion of they're paying attention.
Mm-hmm. And tying into that owning the room, I think ahead of it, he added the tip of adapting to the room. And Howie mentioned it in the chat room also. Being in that, owning the room, being in the moment, adapting to the room, it's all that training. And somebody mentions that Second City is looking at, or they're offering some improv type classes. And I believe that maybe they're not the Second City improv troupe that they're referring to. But anyway, the idea that training in your performance, in your observation skills, it all ties together, and it's been really kind of a subtle theme with the show tonight.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have Randy Bartlett up next, and then after that, gang, what's going to happen is you guys can bounce out to DJNTV.com/chill with Howie at the top of the hour. Monday nights at 10 o'clock Eastern, Howie has a recording time in the chill room. Again, it's every week. It's DJNTV.com/chill. You can go there, and what's kind of cool is he'll have a guest or it'll be a group discussion. That happens for about 20 minutes. Then it becomes a hallway hangout. It's all on Zoom, so then you can turn your camera on and join the conversation. Sometimes you learn, sometimes you laugh, sometimes it's just nice to see some friends that we have missed from the last year and a half of our staying at home and not doing things. So that'll be coming up at 10 o'clock Eastern tonight, which is in about a half an hour. So, Dan, are we ready for Mr. Randy Bartlett?
We are absolutely. So coming up to our headliner of the night, for lack of better terms, Randy Bartlett is going to be talking about stacking the deck. So at this point, hand it over to Mr. Randy Bartlett.
Hey everybody, I hope you've gathered a lot of great information tonight, and I hope your brains still have room for a little more. I want to talk tonight about one of my favorite topics, which I call stacking the deck. In cards, stacking the deck means prearranging the cards so that the odds of you winning are more in your favor. It doesn't guarantee a win, but it does improve the odds. Since it's baseball season and my Giants have the best record in baseball, a little bragging, let me use a baseball analogy to explain how this works for us. Let's say the score is 2-2, it's top of the ninth, and the pitcher is due up with a runner on second base. Now, he's pitching a great game, but he's not a good hitter. So the manager decides to pinch hit for him. Now, the manager will stack the deck in his team's favor by choosing the hitter most likely to have success. In this case, he's looking to score that runner from second base. So he'd probably choose a higher average hitter with not a lot of power because he needs a base hit rather than a power hitter with a lower average. He would probably choose a right-handed batter if they had a left-handed pitcher because you statistically a little better odds in that case. He would also look at who's hot right now versus who's not. He might even take that runner at second base out for a pinch runner to put in somebody a little bit faster. But even in that moment, when all of that is going on, he's already done a lot of this in pre-game planning. He's already thought about who might be pitching at that point and what his best options would be. He would look at what happened if the run doesn't score. Let's say there's a slow runner on second. His catcher is the only catcher, or his other catcher's not available. If he takes that catcher out and puts in a runner for him, a faster runner, now he doesn't have a catcher for the bottom of the ninth or if it goes into extra innings. So all of those things come into play. A lot of things to consider, none of which guarantees success. But he's stacking the odds in his team's favor by putting the things that are most likely to give him the best outcome. So, and he's pre-planned a lot of this so that he's not just winging it in the moment. That's what we need to do as DJs. We stack the odds in our favor to improve the odds of a favorable outcome. So there's so many different places that we can do that, and I can't possibly cover them all. But I want to give you some examples of and sort of get you thinking in that direction of what like a baseball manager would do, so that you can create the best possible outcome, and we're not then trying to land this plane on a wing and a prayer. So when does this stacking the deck start? Well, for me, usually even before I ever spoke to the couple, once I would get that initial inquiry, unless I just happened to answer the phone when they called. For those of you a little younger than me, people used to call on the telephone and talk to you in order to, book your services. I'm that old. But before even returning the call, just from the basic information that I got, I would begin. And, today it's so easy with social media, the obvious places like Facebook and Instagram. So take a look, see what they've posted, if anything. Not everybody's on social media, and not everybody's really open, but a lot of them are. So what are you looking for? What are their hobbies? What are their jobs? What sports teams do they like? What bands do they follow? What kind of pictures do they post? If you looked at my Facebook page, you would see a lot of stuff about Yosemite, right? The background here. Hiking, home improvement projects has become my new passion. Fitness, my grandchildren. I'm very open. If you looked at my wife's Facebook page, you'd see some travel. You'd see a lot of stuff about dogs. And you would see, if you compared the two of us, that I'm by far the most outgoing, more social. And all of that information could then be very helpful with you in your planning process. So how would you use that? Well, it can be as simple as how you direct your initial questions. If you were talking to me, you would likely see me as this outgoing, enthusiastic, and not very private person. So I would probably like concepts like more fun, more involved. Denise, you'd be able to see, is much more interested in details and the planning. And so a small adjustment in how you talk to both of us could make a big difference in how things goes. If that initial call is with Denise, you would probably ratchet it down a little bit. You could overwhelm her. You couldn't overwhelm me. If you started talking to me about planning, boy, you'd lose me pretty quick. Although I realize that climbing's important, that's not my trigger. So you start at that and use that information to decide really everything, how to dress, how to interact, what kinds of ideas that you want to throw at them, what sort of questions to ask. All of those things are simply stacking the deck in your favor. So you come across a little bit more prepared. And you probably can find out, if you don't already know the venue, you can go to the venue, to their website, find out, so you have some idea of what you're talking about. Once they arrive, you can already have their, like in my office, my desk sat here and I had a big TV right behind me. So I would put a big monogram with their names up on it. When they came in, they would see that. Sometimes I would even put their pictures up there that I took off of their Facebook page. If you happen to know from reading their Facebook page that they're big fans of 21 Pilots, then when they come in, I've got 21 Pilots playing, right? And it creates a smile. So you've just done a little bit of homework. If you're going to meet them at a neutral place, you don't have an office, you might find out on their social media that they are big fans of a local coffee shop, Steve's Java place, and that they really don't like Starbucks at all. Well, knowing that can really help, because if you're going to make a suggestion to them and you say, hey, listen, why don't we meet at Starbucks? It's not like you're going to lose the event because you said Starbucks. But if they're a big fan of Steve's Java place and you say, hey, so let's get together. Why don't we meet at, Steve's Java place? Oh my God, we love that place, right? So you can just stack the deck in your favor a little bit. And you haven't just thrown out Starbucks and you're like, oh, great, he's another Starbucks kind of a guy. You might see on their social media where they're asking for recommendations, not only for weddings, but for anything, right? And so if you see 4 or 5 different, and they've asked for a wedding photographer, and maybe they asked for, a plumber last week, and you notice that in their request for recommendations, they're saying, does anybody have a recommendation for a plumber who is reasonable or who doesn't charge an arm and a leg, right? That's code for, I want something below the normal price. I've already found out what plumbers or photographers charge, and I think it's outrageous. And so you're probably dealing with somebody who's more budget-minded. It doesn't mean you can't sell to them, but it does mean that you need to make sure that they understand value even more. So now you have some information that you can use where you begin to stack the deck to get the sale. At the event, that's where it really comes into play. So it starts from the very beginning. I see so many DJs who just play some lame instrumental music as guests arrive, either just out of habit or because they don't know better, or the client says, just play some soft instrumentals early on, and the DJ says, okay, it's what the client wants, right? Probably not. The client probably doesn't want that. They might say that they want soft instrumental music, but it's all they know. When I would ask my clients, every client, I always said, tell me what you want your guests to feel. What emotion, when they leave your wedding and they're talking about your wedding, you want them to say that wedding was what? What are the adjectives? And like 99.9% of the time, the very first word out of their mouth is fun. Well, when you say, tell me a fun musical artist, Kenny G, Boney James, that doesn't come to mind, right? That's not fun music. I'm not saying it's not good music. It's not. But it's not fun music, right? So if they want it to be fun, you need to be playing fun music as the guests enter. You get them bopping and smiling and laughing right away. And listen, turn it up some, right? It doesn't need to be dance level, but it's also not the dentist's office. This is a celebration, not a meeting, right? So have some more fun music. Now it can come down a little during dinner. I know too many DJs who play a dinner volume and a dance volume, but the volume should be all over the place all the time to create the atmosphere you want to stack the deck. If you're going to do a high energy introduction, you don't want to go from very soft, lovely jazz instrumentals to high energy. Can you do it? Sure. Happens all the time. Will it work? Yeah, I mean, sure, it'll work, but you're much better off. You're stacking the deck in your favor. If you already have people like they're just having a great time, right? It's easier to go up from a 6 to an 8 than from a 2 to an 8. So what is this fun music that we do? I would say, 95% of all the weddings that I've done over the last 25 years open with what we call fun stuff music. And fun stuff means it's familiar, it's fun, it's upbeat. It can be oldies, it can be new, it can be Motown, country, reggae, pop. I mean, the genre doesn't matter. Ethnic music, right? It can be anything you want, but it should feel like a party, right? So now you've created this atmosphere. And what's your sequence of events? Because this is huge. Do you always do the same thing? I see this online so much where DJs say, well, I like to do, and you fill in the blank of how they like to have their sequence of events. But let me give you an example of where that can really bite you in the rear end. In Sacramento, we do a lot of outdoor events where we're doing the wedding and the reception at the same location. We do a lot in the summer, and some of them start fairly early in the day. So it doesn't get dark in the summertime till 9 o'clock, and at 8 o'clock, it might still be 100 degrees. So that's not really conducive to dancing. So how do we stack the deck? Well, nobody wants to dance when it's 95 degrees and middle of the day. Does that mean nobody will dance? Of course not. I mean, you can do everything wrong and still get good results. But if you want to stack the deck, here's what I would try to do in that case. I would try to get the client who's planning on a 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock wedding in August to consider moving it back to 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock. That gives us a big difference in the heat. That extra hour, it really in the evening, starts to really taper off. And the problem is a lot of them are planning their wedding in January where it's dark at 5:30 and it's cold, and they kind of forget what summer is like. So, I'll pull up an almanac and I'll go, let's take a look at your date. On August 9th, when you're getting married, in the last 10 years, the coolest it's ever been, our coolest high temperature was 86. The highest one was 112. And it looks like it averages about 98, 100 degrees. Maybe we should consider moving this back just a little bit. And then in that case, to stack the deck, I would front load the reception. Now, more frequently, I try to keep the cocktails as fast as possible. And then I want to move through the reception and get into that dance party mode, which is ultimately what everybody wants, right? But in this case, I'm going to try to slow things down a little bit. I might have the cocktails be just a little bit longer. I might have the dinner followed by the toast, and I might even have them cut the cake before they do the toast, which I typically don't like. But depending on timeline and what else we have going on, I'm trying to push the dancing back a little bit. See, I'd rather have 40 minutes of just great kick-ass dance time than 90 minutes of almost nobody dancing, right? I would encourage them to do things like, have a fun video montage, not a slideshow, but a really fun, upbeat, with music video montage where people are laughing and clapping and cheering during that montage. I would really probably push for an interactive transition or 2 or 3, maybe, where normally I wouldn't want to do that many. So I'd be looking to do a love story, a centerpiece giveaway, a newlywed game, or top 10, or Mad Libs, or whatever interactive things you do. And I might try to do 2 or 3 of those instead of the normal one. Again, just add in a few minutes. And the difference would be, whereas I might normally keep my newlywed game to 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, here I might stretch that out to 8 or 9 minutes. I don't want to make it 20 minutes, right? But I might just add 2 or 3 or 4 minutes to things. And every time we do that, we're pushing that dance start time back just a little bit. Again, my goal, I want to have great dancing for 40 minutes instead of little or no dancing for 90 minutes. anything that we can do to sort of stretch that timeline out in this particular case, I would do that. If we were doing a first dance, a father-daughter, a mother-son, I might suggest that they do a video montage playing behind them and do the full-length version of those songs, whereas many of you know I'm a big advocate of shortened spotlight dances. 2.5 minutes is a good length of time to watch somebody that does the typical, waddle back and forth dance. But let's let them be 3.5 minutes long or 4 minutes long, which is much easier to watch if there's a video montage playing behind them. So we're not going to do all of these things, right? The idea is, we're stacking the deck, right? It's not like going back to the baseball analogy, I'm not bringing in a pitcher that I know will strike everybody out or a hitter that's always going to get a hit. That's not how it works. We're trying to improve the odds. And then what can I do now to make it more conducive for dancing? A big part of that, again, is pre-planning. Just like the baseball managers sit down in advance and they go, listen, when you're facing this guy, you're going to want to pitch him up and in. Don't get the ball down because that's the nitro zone. He'll knock it out. So when I'm talking to my clients, I'm talking to them about if they want there to be dancing, and especially for the grooms, a lot of whom are like, I don't really dance much. I'm like, that's fine. And you don't need to. I want you to have a great time as well. However, if you want more dancing from your guests, let's get you guys out on the dance floor for the first couple of fast dances for sure, because where you go, they'll go, right? So let's talk to them about that. Encourage them to encourage their parents in their wedding parties to do that. One of the things I always do is I would call the parents before every wedding and have a conversation with them. And I've talked about that in my Minute with Randy Bartlett series, so I won't go into that here. But that's one of the things that I talk to them about is like, listen, people follow you just like, your kids and their friends follow them. Your friends will follow you. So listen, if you want to help add to the dancing, come on out to the dance floor. And so we do all of those things. And then one of the big things that I've always done, I just saw this on somebody's post, and they said it was going to be really hot for an event coming up. And one of the suggestions was, make sure you bring a fan. And I've seen a lot of DJs do that, and they do. They put a fan on them so they keep themselves cool. That's good, but the more important thing is we put a big fan on the dance floor, and depends on the size of the dance floor, always one, and frequently 2 or 3, sometimes even 4 if it's a really big dance floor. So the coolest place to be is on the dance floor. That when that fan is going and it's hot, all the bridesmaids are there. They're holding up their dresses and letting the wind go underneath it, and it puts people on the dance floor. If you're sitting at the table just a few feet away, you don't even hardly feel that breeze. But come on the dance floor, it's nice and cool. Doesn't mean everybody's going to dance. But again, stacking the deck, right? If I can make the dance floor a few degrees cooler, I'm much better off. And I talked to a couple about things about loosening up. And so just attire, for example. I try really hard for all of my outdoor events to continue to wear my jacket all day. There are sometimes in Sacramento, it's so hot that's not practical. But the reason I wear my jacket isn't because I want to look like I'm wearing a jacket. It's because when we start the dancing, I want to be able to throw that jacket off. I throw the jacket off, I loosen the tie, I make it a big deal. I do that sometimes even while I'm talking. I want them to see me do that. It's leading the party. I'm not telling everybody to take their jacket off. I'm just saying, it's time to party, and we throw that off and loosen up the tie, and now it just feels a little bit better. So all of those are great ideas for when it's really hot, but it's not always really hot, right? So what else are we doing? Listen, when it's indoors and we don't have all of that, I'm just kind of doing the opposite. I'm trying to shorten the cocktail hour. I'm doing less time on those interactives. So I still have, we can do the love story, a centerpiece, a newlywed game. I mean, all those things can still be done, but I'm trying to make them a little shorter, right? And so if I can shave 2 or 3 minutes here or 2 or 3 minutes there, that moves things along a little bit faster. That becomes my goal. Because I'm stacking the deck. I'm fighting against the weather, or I'm working with it, whatever we have going on. So what else can we do? I mean, we certainly, lighting can make a huge difference, right? So if you can light the dance floor correctly, that's a big part of it. But the natural lighting, when you're outdoors, if I can do first dance at sunset, it doesn't have to be dark. Just get the sun so it's not directly beating down on people. And, that extra 20 or 30 minutes that we pushed back, now they're coming out to dance during sunset hour. Completely different. So the same thing with you're doing lighting, incorporating lighting, a photo booth. When I first started seeing photo booths many years ago, I hated them because they were so competitive to the dance floor, and they'd be, out in the other room. They'd be going while we're doing the toasts and the first dance. And so we bought a photo booth because I didn't like photo booths and I wanted to sort of limit the damage. But once we learned how to use an open photo booth and put it, on the dance floor or next to the dance floor, so then people can just take one step off of the dance floor and they're in that big photo booth shot with the big group photos, and incorporating that. They would take the props from the photo booth onto the dance floor. It changed everything for me. So, we things like we want more people in the photo booth. We would project the image from the photo booth up onto the wall, or if we're outdoors, we would just bring a big 50-inch screen. And when people see all those fun photos going there, they want to be a part of that as well. And finally, one of the most important things that we all deal with is logistics. The obvious logistics issue is, the idiots who want to put the DJ in the corner with all of the tables in between the DJ and the dance floor. Now, how do you eliminate that? Well, the best way to eliminate it, again, is by stacking the deck. And you bring it up before they do. In that first planning meeting, it's one of the things that I'm always talking about in the very beginning. And I explain to them how important that is, so that, down the road when their disc coordinator or their Aunt Martha or somebody comes up with this absurd plan and says, here's what we're going to do, I want that bride to be our advocate and go, oh, hell no, we're not doing that. Our DJ is really important. Entertainment is a big deal to us. So no, we're not putting the DJ over there. That's dumb. Now you've got an advocate. You didn't have to overcome somebody else's floor plan. Now, some floor plans, some logistics are just really difficult. We have a venue here in Sacramento, and you guys probably all have places like this. So the venue it's a beautiful venue, but it's almost like two half circle rooms that are connected. So almost like a figure eight. And the setup there is that the bar, DJ, and the dance floor is in one room, again, a connected room, openly connected, but sort of a semicircle. And then the other half is where the head table is, and that's where they put the first guests, and then if there's a lot of them, they spill over into the other room. Way back in the beginning, 30 years ago when we would work there, way before wireless speakers were a thing, we were running speaker wire all the way over to the other room, even fighting with the venue over it, because the venue would tell the client, because we charged for that, and the venue would say to the client, you don't need that, none of the other DJs do that, which is true, but the venue who was saying that were salespeople who weren't there on Saturday when we're doing the wedding, when we're trying to send sound, through 150 people so it would reach the head table. Now, this venue, and anybody who's listening in from Sacramento will know which one I'm talking about, any DJ who's any good at all, just competent, is going to put speakers in that additional room at this point. And then part of what happens in that venue now is we now have dancing really in a different room. So if we just started the dance music and did the first dance over there, there's this disconnect because the guests are sitting too far away. And so they can see the first dance, but then we go from there and we say the dance floor is open. They would then have to make a decision to get up from their comfortable table and walk clear into another room to begin dancing. Well, you're going to get your dancers are going to do that, right? Your non-dancers, you're never going to affect no matter what. But most people are somewhere in the middle. And so if we can stack the deck in our favor, we can have a lot more dancing. And the way we do that is I would bring all the guests from the other room into the room where the dancing was going to take place. So they're gathered around the dance floor when I say the dance floor is open. They would then have to make a decision to walk away to the other room, and some will do that, but most will stay there. Well, how do I make that happen, right? So again, stacking the deck. I could just say, everybody go over there, but you've all had that issue where some person who, I'm trying to be nice here, some person who is less than knowledgeable, shall we say, says, yeah, just make an announcement, tell them to go over there, as if that's going to really work. So the way I would make it work is early in the reception, long before that time comes up, I would give them, which I don't typically do, but at this venue, I do. I would say, here's what you can expect later. And when it comes time for the first dance, we're going to invite all of you to come over to this side of the room and gather around the dance floor, because Joe and Amy have a very special first dance that you're going to want to be nice and close to see. So I'll let you know when that time comes. But when that happens, grab your drinks, head on over quickly so they don't have to wait for you over there, and we'll go. And then when I make that announcement, my DJ's at the DJ booth in that other room. I'm the MC. I can make that announcement from among the tables there, and then I quickly look around. Half the people are going to start moving right away, and half are not. That's the reality. And I go to those tables and I go, come on, people, let's go. We're moving, right? By this time, I've already established enough of a rapport. I can play, I can be goofy. I can go, come on, you're not going to make them wait for you. Let's go. And I can make that time go from 4 minutes or 5 minutes to get everybody there, which is crushing, to 2 minutes. And now we've got everybody there and we're ready to go. It's a complete game changer. So once we've got people there, now when I say the dance floor is open, I've completely stacked the deck in our favor. We get way, way more dancing by doing that than if you don't. So I'm going to leave you with a couple of other areas where you can stack the deck in your favor. I don't have time to go into them all in detail, but hopefully with a little bit of what I've discussed tonight conceptually, you can take these ideas then and your brain will go, oh, I know what I could do to stack the deck in my favor. First and foremost, you stack the deck in your favor by investing in yourself with training, just like this. Workshops, conventions, training your staff. It's funny. I've heard people say, well, I don't want to train them too much because then they'll just go off and do it, be my competitor. The only thing worse than training somebody really well and having them go be your competitor is to not train them and have them stay with you. All right. So don't make that mistake. Train them really well, train yourself really well, get to the conventions. Hey, I hear there's a great set of DVDs called The 1% Solution, really great training. And by the way, if you've not subscribed to A Minute with Randy Bartlett with DJNTV, by all means do it. It's free and a new topic every week. And the regular 1% Solution DVDs, which we've had out now for about 20 years, is when they began. We now finally have them available as digital downloads. So you can go to our website, which is dj1percentsolution.com, all spelled out. And I won't go into the details here, but there's a really great deal, especially for anybody. But if you already own the DVDs, then you'll be able to get the digital downloads at a ridiculously low price. So check that out. But training big, you can stack the deck with your entertainment schedule. Or agenda, right? Some people call it that. I call it an entertainment schedule, but not just with the sequence, which is really critical, but make sure it looks really good, really official, not a thing you sort of scratched out on, a Word doc or God forbid, I know a lot of people do, a spreadsheet. Make it look like a real schedule. And then who gets a copy of that? We give it to everybody that's on the team. It says team on there. So the photographer and their name and contact information is on there, and the videographer, and if it's a different photo booth company or caterer or venue, everybody is listed on there with their name and their contact information. They get a copy of that in advance, and then they get a copy that day because many of them, the reality is they don't read it. Again, this stuff isn't foolproof. It's just stacking the deck in your favor. So whoever gets those things is now on your team. And that's what we're looking for. I just did a minute, I think it was last week or the week before, a minute with Randy Bartlett. By the way, if you don't know, a minute with Randy Bartlett is not a minute. It's sort of, let's spend a little time together. I usually try to keep them about 5 or 6 minutes every week. The really short ones are usually 2 or 3 minutes long. Really long ones, I've done a couple that have been like 12 or 14 minutes, I think, but usually they're 5 or 6 minutes. But I just did one where we talk about site visits for private residents. And I talked specifically about power issues, and those are really important, and you can go watch that. But I also, they're super important for logistics, right? So when you go there in advance, and we always charge for a site visit for private residents, not for a venue that I might play again. If I don't know that place, that's on me to go do it. But in my opinion, if it's a private backyard, I'm never going to go there again. I charge a fee for private residences, and that includes a site visit. And I'm looking at logistics, and they're saying, we're going to put the DJ over there. We're going to put and sometimes being there in advance and being able to say, no, let's work this out a little bit better. You can solve a lot of those problems. Last thing I want to talk about here quickly is the subject of whether or not to surprise your couples. This is a really big stack the deck moment. And I've covered this well. You can look it up in a minute with Randy Bartlett. But here's the short version. People say, oh, I hate surprises. Nobody hates surprises. People hate bad surprises. If you find the person you know who hates every surprise and says, no, I hate all surprises. And you go, oh, surprise, here's $10,000. They're not going to go, no, I hate that idea. Take the money, right? They might hate how it's done, right? They might hate it if you showed up at their door with a camera crew. They might not like that piece of it, but they would like the $10,000. So when it comes to stacking the deck, understand your clients. And when they say, I hate surprises, then it's always seek first to understand, then to be understood. Don't try to talk them out of that. Just say, well, give me an example of what you would hate as a surprise, something that you've seen that you would dislike. And usually it's going to be, oh, I was at this wedding and they put this, big hat on and they were standing on the speakers, or they made the groom do a sexy dance before he removed the garter. Like, understand what they mean by surprises and then deal with that. And then the very last thing I'm going to talk about stacking the deck is just general fitness. I've been very fit. I've been a little bit fit, and I've been very unfit. It's better to be fit. At the end of the night, the better condition you are physically and mentally, the better chance of success that you have. I think it comes from Navy SEALs. They say the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in battle. So be prepared physically, mentally, logistically, do all of those things. And then you can go out with the deck completely stacked in your favor. You highly improve your chances of winning the day. So hope that was helpful. Go crush this year. We'll see you all, I hope, very, very soon. Take care.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I'm telling you, Randy, thank you. Great tips in there. And if you did not catch them all, well, go back and rewatch it. That's all I'm going to say to that. I want to thank everybody, all of our speakers tonight, Mr. Scott Faver, Mr. Thomas Heath, Mr. Dean Carlson, Mr. Jason Jani, Mr. Randy Bartlett. Excellent people to learn from, and gave you a lot of gold tips tonight. Thank you guys for all the work that you put into the speeches and everything else. I want to remind everybody, coming up next month, July 19th, we are going to be having another seminar, virtual training night. This one's going to be focused on lighting. So if you're wanting to learn how you can improve all that, July 19th, the place to be is going to be right back here. Reminder right now, as soon as I say bye, you're going to go on over to DJNTV.com/chill. Howie and the guys, they are going to be talking about some great things relating to gigs, what they will do or what they won't do. And you're going to make sure you want to check that out. Again, DJNTV.com/chill. You have yourself a wonderful night. We'll see you next time. Thanks,
everybody. Good night.